Before you listen to the Tech Talk Daily podcast, I have to ask, are the high levels of uncertainty you're experiencing keeping you from making bold moves? Are you able to clearly see and act on the game-changing opportunities the pandemic has created? I'm Daniel Burris, serial entrepreneur, global technology futurist, and disruptive innovation expert, and right now, you have a choice to make. You can react to problems and disruptions after they happen, or you can learn to accurately anticipate disruptions before they disrupt and identify and pre-solve problems before they happen, giving you the ability to turn disruptive change into your biggest advantage. If you want to take control of your future and make a significant impact now and in the years ahead, join thousands of leaders from around the world by becoming a member of my Anticipatory Leader System, where you'll get the latest insights, processes, tools, and virtual coaching that will give you the certainty and confidence you need to actively shape a better future for you and your organization. Go to techblogwriter.co.uk and click on Daniel Burris.
Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. How you all doing out there in internet land? Are you a crypto millionaire yet? Remember, send anything over. I always love to hear about your adventures. And anyone thinking of diving headfirst into the world of crypto, remember, all those experts have been nowhere to be seen for the last 2 years while the graphs were incredibly low. Now suddenly our timelines and news feeds are full of self-proclaimed experts. So do your own research and don't trust the word of anyone on the internet, including myself. I'm no financial advisor, but the space does fascinate me. And I'm currently working with a digital agency to revamp my website. And I'm also going to be looking a little bit deeper into trying to understand Google Analytics and SEO. It's a subject that doesn't really excite me, but I know I need to explore that area a little bit more deeply. And during my research, I have encountered somebody called Pamela Wagner, who is the founder and CEO of Ajala Digital, where she has worked with 2,000 plus companies to grow their business through paid ads. Now, in 2017, she was made Forbes 30 under 30, and also her insights have been featured on all the usual major platforms such as ABC News, Forbes, Yahoo, Mashable, MSN, Washington Times, Google Startup Grind, and so many more. And she's also got a great backstory, so I thought I'd invite her onto my podcast. And thankfully she said yes, but the only catch was that she's currently escaping the European winter and soaking up vitamin D in Ghana. So apart from me being a little bit jealous, that was all good with me. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Ghana, where Pamela is waiting to speak with us now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Pamela Wagner. I run a boutique ads agency where we help 6- and 7-figure businesses grow with Google and Facebook ads. We've been doing that for more than 5 years, and I started the company myself right after I left Google. So now we've worked with over 2,000 advertisers all over the world and helped them grow their businesses. And these days, companies we work with usually see a 5 to 10x return of ad spend.
I'm glad you mentioned your time at Google there, because one of the things that I try and do on this Daily Tech podcast is explore what put people into tech, where that inspiration came from, and find out what shaped you. So, like you said, you did originally work at Google. So can you tell me where your love of technology came from and what led to you ending up joining Google then?
Sure. So I can tell you that none of that was planned at all. And I was in my last 2 months of my master's degree, and we had career coaches, and the career coach I was working with, he recommended that I would apply for Google because they were looking for new people. I, at that point in time, would have never thought I'd apply. I underestimated myself heavily. So But I knew like 2 or 3 people there too. So they recommended me, and then my career coach helped me. And so I applied. And after 5 interviews, 2 from China and 3 from Poland, I finally got an offer to join. Now, fun fact is that, now I honestly admit I had no idea what my job was about when I joined. I was just really good at interviewing skills. But for me, it was not really something that was like, oh my God, tech or whatever. I just really wanted to experience a big corporate entity that is doing something different. And so I learned a lot there. I mean, as especially the people, some of them are now my partners, friends, clients, it's amazing. It's a time I'll always look back with big gratitude.
And speaking of fun facts, before you came on the podcast today, I did do a little bit of research on you. And I believe you also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro at just 22. So can you tell me more about that? What inspired you to make the trip, and also what you learned from that experience?
Sure. So that was actually while I was working at Google. And as you might know, Ireland is pretty cold and grainy. And, I wanted kind of like another challenge. I was looking for something new. And I've been to Tanzania before, but growing up in Austria, like you grew up with a lot of mountains around you. It's kind of natural to go hiking and so on. But I really wanted a new challenge. And so I booked this trip, and I even fell sick about 3 weeks before the trip, so I couldn't even properly prepare. And I just wanted to really take my mind to a new level. So while I couldn't prepare physically much, like I really prepared my mind to I'll be healthy, I'll be fine. I'm not going to get that altitude sickness and all of those things, because I really wanted to test, can my mind, help me overcome certain things even more than I'd already proven myself before. And so it took 7 days, right? You go up 5 days, 5.5 days. And then on the 5th day on the night, you started around like midnight. And it takes you a good 6 to 7 hours to reach the peak, but you don't see anything because it's pitch black, right? Yeah. And you walk super slowly because you can't breathe much because the air is so thin. And so you literally just have to keep on walking and believing you'll make it, even when you don't see anything that's happening around you. Wow. And I think that's a good metaphor for life in general.
I think it really is. And here in 2020, though, you're the founder and CEO of Ajala Digital. So I believe you've worked with 2,000 plus companies and helped them grow their businesses through paid ads. But can you tell me more about the kind of problems that you're solving for businesses, and also, of course, the story behind the company too?
Absolutely. So I'll start off with the problem we were solving. That's probably a bit shorter. So companies we usually work with are established businesses with proven business models. So they have clear revenue come in. They're not startups typically. And they usually have the problem that they either don't know paid ads as well, or they're using it, but they're not happy with the outcome. So it's not producing any significant return of ad spend. Or also business owners that just feel overwhelmed and know that they need a specialist to do this for them because they can do much better things with their time. So this is usually when we come in, create a strategy or optimize the current strategy, and then really also manage the ads for them or coach them through it. So there's these 2 avenues. Now, in terms of how the company got started is after I left Google, it was kind of like the first time in my life where I could do anything I wanted in my life. Everything was up to me. I didn't have to go to any meeting. I didn't have to meet any boss's expectations. I didn't have to, do any exams, nothing. And so I was kind of really excited about everything being up to me. Like the only person I could blame in that moment was myself, right? And so I started to slowly take on projects while I was actually traveling already. And 4 months after I'd left the company, I'd made more money in a month than I'd made at Google in a month. And now, mind you, I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. I'm the first one to finish studies. So there were a lot of first times, but I thought, well, if I've made it this far, then I just need to figure out how to make this sustainable and scale it. And there's people out there who've done it, right? So this is something I can learn. And here we are 5 years later.
What a great story. And apologies for asking this question, but we will have people listening all over the world, and it's probably an answer that they've been searching for many years. But what is the secret to growing and scaling a company through Google Ads and Google Analytics? Or it's probably a different podcast on its own to answer that question, possibly. But is there anything you can share on that?
Yeah, so okay, let me try to keep this really short. I think a lot of people underestimate the platforms. So Google Ads has become really complex. It's now over 20 years old, and while, or on Facebook, while you can just create a business manager account, you can create an ad account yourself and you can just put up ads. It takes a lot more to really create ads that are successful. And what we see with a lot of people that often dive in too early is that they haven't even properly optimized their website. So what I always tell people is before you throw money at ads, make sure your website is really top so that you can actually manage and convert the traffic that then is going to come through these ads.
As well, for people listening, I suspect that a lot of actually outsourced things like this to an agency and think that they can't do it on their own. But how can listeners better manage Google Ads, or indeed paid ads in general, effectively in-house? Is that something that's possible, do you think?
It is absolutely possible. It just needs quite some training. And what a lot of people also don't know is that Google also offers quite some free support. So when you're logged into your Google Ads account, there's a little question mark item, a button, and you can click on that and you can contact the support and ask them questions, actually. So I always recommend people to do that, to make use of that support. And secondly, Google also has a big support center. So I think it's support.google.com/Google/ads. And that is a good first resource. And then, of course, invest in trainings. Now, with trainings, what I always warn people about is if you buy a $10 Udemy course, then that's exactly the same value you're going to get. So if you want to get it done and make sure it works, better work with a specialist, because it's going to save you so much more money than if you just keep figuring it out on your own and wasting that money over months.
When you talk about a specialist there, I suspect that for many people listening, like I said a few moments ago, they're going to be currently outsourcing this to a big faceless agencies. But what steps can they take, and what should they look out for successfully bringing that part into an in-house position? Because that's in many ways, I think that offers more value, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's interesting that you're asking this question, because I literally talked about this with a friend who's the chief digital officer of a big company. And he also complained that he doesn't, his agency isn't doing the job that they're supposed to do. And they just set up stuff, but then they don't really optimize it. They don't know how to interpret data even. So if you want to manage this yourself in-house, then it makes sense if you have a person who's already savvy around digital marketing. So someone who's maybe been doing social media or search engine optimization, and then, invest in them, give them a training or two, or even hire a coach to have them guide them through like the first couple of steps. And then it's absolutely possible to do it in-house. Like it's not, I always say it's not an art, it's a science. Like you just got to know which buttons to click, and then you can pretty much predict the results that are going to come out of it.
And I also think no matter how much we all claim to have known this year, I think we've all been surprised by just how much the world has changed, especially digitally. So I'm curious, what trends do you think will dominate 2021? Because it just feels like the entire landscape is evolving right now.
It's a good question. I think what we'll find more is, the space around voice control. So like if you've echo and all those things, so we're going to see much more coming up there. And YouTube, definitely YouTube. I mean, even though YouTube is growing and video is growing, it's still so underused. So there's still so much potential there. If you focus on like just YouTube alone, creating a proper video, that can do magic for your company.
I think a lot of people forget, don't they, that YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world.
Yeah, and it's like, I think about like 2/3 of people, so Google published a study where like 2/3 of people, before they buy a product, they actually watch an explainer video on YouTube or like a how-to thing. I mean, how often do you go to YouTube to just figure out how to do something, right? Yeah. And then that's really a good opportunity for companies to start introducing their brand to you. start making you become familiar. Look, this is how you can actually apply it. We can compare this also with a little bit like Instagram, right? If you have pictures that put your product in a lifestyle-ish way, then that's going to perform much better than if you just have a product image.
Yeah, I think that's something we all do. In fact, only last week, the light went on our oven here. And the first thing I did was, of course, go on YouTube. What bulb do I need and how do I replace it? And within 5 minutes, everything was fixed. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And looking forward into 2021, what's going to be your primary focus at Ajala Digital? Is there anything that you can share about what's going to be next for you guys?
Yeah, so we really are going to focus on helping companies take Google Ads in-house, right? So if they're unhappy with their agency, or if they want to learn how to really manage it effectively with just a few hours every week, because you really don't need more than that, then we can help you do that. And why we're doing that is because a lot of times we cannot and we don't want to work with everybody in the world. So that's why I'm like, hey, here's my knowledge, apply it, use it, right? Like really be happy with it and grow your company.
And a question I feel I've got to ask is, are there any myths or misconceptions that you often see out there, especially around Google Analytics and Google Ads? Because I'm sure you've come across a few and they must frustrate you. But are there any that we can lay to rest today?
Yeah, so I think the first one is that a lot of people use, for example, the Google Ads remarketing tag or the Google Ads tracking tag instead of just the Google Analytics tracking code. And that usually adds just another pixel or piece of code to the website that's really not necessary. Like you really just need the Google Analytics tracking code, and with that, you can get everything measured. The second thing I usually see people do a lot is, instead of really properly learning how to use Google Analytics, which is free, right, and is just awesome, they then pay for a third-party tool that actually does exactly what Google Analytics does, but people just don't know how to use it properly. So oftentimes you can save a lot of money by simply learning how to use Google Analytics properly for your own advantage.
And for anybody listening that would like to continue this conversation we started today, find out more about the kind of work that you do at Ajala Digital, or how you can help, or even just point them in the right direction, what is the best way of doing that?
Sure. So people can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's Pamela Wagner. Or if you want to learn about more how you can take Google Ads in-house and manage that effectively, then I created a session for you. And so you can find that under bit.ly/aboutfunnel-up.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add that link to the blog post that will accompany this episode, which as soon as that goes live. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to come on here, share your story, a few of those myths and misconceptions, and also how you're helping businesses right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
What a great conversation. I love Pamela's adventurous spirit, but also diving a little bit deeper in how to grow and scale companies through Google Ads, through Google Analytics, and how to manage Google Ads, or in fact, paid ads in general, effectively in-house. And all that, of course, washed down with her previous working at Google and that accomplishment of climbing Kilimanjaro at only 22. But for everyone listening, if you've got a story to share, remember, my door is always open. If you've got any comments on anything we've talked about today, again, let me know. I'd love to get your voice heard on here too. So remember, my email address is techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. If you're listening to this in 2021, hopefully it's had a nice revamp, but more on that story later. So please, I genuinely mean it. Keep your messages coming in, and I'll return again tomorrow with another guest. So thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.